What if I told you the secret to unlocking your focus, your creativity, and even your happiness isn't out there in the world, but deep within you? And the only way to reach it is to be completely alone. Once a man climbed to the top of a remote mountain. He was breathless but thrilled. Standing on the peak surrounded by vast clouds and crisp air, he felt like the only person in the world who had ever reached that height. But then, to his surprise, he saw something. A monk, sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, still, meditating. The man blinked in disbelief. A monk? All the way up here? He walked closer and asked, "Excuse me, what are you doing in such a lonely place? Aren't you afraid up here so far from everyone?" The monk slowly opened his eyes. "I live here," he said calmly. "I meditate in solitude, and no, I'm not afraid." The man was shocked. "But how can you live alone? Don't you get lonely? Don't you ever feel bored or sad?" The monk smiled. "Most people associate solitude with loneliness or sadness. But solitude," he said, "has many beautiful benefits. If you truly want to understand, I will share them with you." And so the monk began. Being alone makes you more efficient. When you're surrounded by others, colleagues, family, distractions, your energy gets scattered. But when you're alone, your energy gathers. It becomes focused. Focused energy is powerful. Imagine you're writing an important report. In solitude, without phone calls or noise, you finish in half the time and with twice the clarity. Those who learn to be alone learn how to channel their energy into deep work. When we are alone, our thoughts align. We become aware of our true priorities. There's no one to please, no pressure to perform, just clarity, calm, and sharp focus. Solitude is a wellspring of creativity. When you're alone, your mind begins to wander, and in that wandering, new ideas are born. This is how Einstein imagined time bending. It's how artists paint and poets write. The greatest inventions were first conceived in silence. Autistic thinkers, writers, inventors, they often preferred solitude. Because solitude feeds imagination. It allows your thoughts to float freely, like clouds over this mountain, forming shapes that never existed before. You begin to notice things others miss. Sounds, ideas, possibilities. A quiet room becomes a creative storm. Being alone helps you learn faster. In solitude, you can read without distraction, reflect without noise. And because your attention isn't being pulled in 100 directions, you absorb knowledge quickly. Imagine a student who studies alone in the early morning versus one distracted by texts and chatter. Who do you think learns more? Solitude gives your brain the space to grow. It's like adding fertilizer to the soil of your mind. Thoughts go deeper. Retention becomes stronger. Understanding becomes natural. Many top performers, scientists, philosophers, spiritual seekers, they all spent long hours alone, reading, thinking, reflecting. Solitude teaches you happiness from within. In today's world, people chase happiness through entertainment, relationships, even shopping. But real happiness comes when you can sit with yourself in silence and feel content. If you can be happy when you are alone, then you will carry that happiness with you everywhere. It won't matter where you go or who you're with, because happiness will live inside you. When you are your own friend, you are never truly alone. And when you love your own company, you are free, not dependent on anyone to fill your cup. Solitude builds patience and earns you respect. People who talk constantly often interrupt others. They don't listen deeply, and because of this, people stop valuing their words. But those who spend time in silence learn patience. They speak less, but say more. They listen fully, without jumping in. And when they finally speak, people listen, because silence has given their voice power. In society, such people are admired. Their calm presence commands attention. Their words carry weight. They become the type of person others turn to in times of need. Silence, after all, is the language of wisdom. Silence actually improves your relationships. When you're always surrounded by others, you start taking them for granted. You stop seeing their value. But when you step away, even briefly, you begin to appreciate them again. You notice your own behavior. You reflect on past arguments. You understand where you went wrong. Solitude builds empathy. It lets you come back to relationships with more clarity and more love. Think of it like recharging your emotional battery. When you return, you're able to connect more deeply. You listen better. You love more fully. You forgive more easily. In silence, your mind slows down. Stress dissolves. Your body produces less cortisol and more dopamine and serotonin. These are your feel-good chemicals. Ever notice how peaceful a quiet morning feels? That's not just emotional. That's chemical. That's your brain healing itself. Solitude is a medicine. And like all medicine, it works only when taken regularly. Even 15 minutes a day can help calm your nerves, reduce anxiety, and restore balance. Your thoughts become lighter, your emotions settle, and you begin to smile without knowing why. Solitude reveals who you truly are. In silence, there is no one to impress, no audience to perform for, just you. And that's when the masks fall away. That's when you begin to meet your true self. Meditation becomes easier. Insight becomes deeper. You understand your desires, your fears, your purpose. This is the foundation of self-awareness, and from that grows inner peace. Most people are strangers to themselves. Solitude makes you your own friend. When you sit quietly, the noise of the world fades, and the voice of your soul begins to speak. And in those moments, you begin to remember who you are. The monk looked into the man's eyes. "These are the gifts of solitude," he said softly. "Not just for monks, but for anyone. In business, in relationships, in the search for peace. Everyone needs time alone." The man's face lit up. His expression changed from confusion to clarity. He folded his hands and bowed. "Thank you," he whispered. "From today I will make time for solitude." And with those words, he descended the mountain, changed. So dear friend, if you too decide to follow the monk's advice, even for just 10 minutes a day, your life will begin to change. You'll focus better, think clearer, love deeper, heal faster. Because solitude isn't emptiness, it's power, and that power lives quietly within you.